Today is Wednesday, January 6, 2016, and the title of this rant will be Saudi Arabia, no friend of the U.S. Now, remember the U.S. was going to have a democracy flourishing in Iraq by now when Bush went in and said it'll just spread throughout the entire Middle East. Or that was at Cheney, I don't know. But that hasn't happened. And as bad as we might like to talk about Iran all the time, Saudi Arabia has been a bad actor, a terrible actor the whole time, and administrations have coddled the Saudi monarch, or the KSA, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, for a long, long time. Now remember when Jimmy Carter put solar panels on the top of the White House in the late 70s, he said that by 2010, we'd be energy independent. Of course, Reagan came in, he took the shit down, and guess what happened? Back to bringing the oil in from overseas. So we've got this huge thing that's going on. Saudi Arabia publicly executed 47 people. One of them was a very prominent Shia cleric, in Saudi Arabia, and he was put to death because of treason, and basically indicated that there should be some nonviolent protests about what's going on in the Saudi Arabian kingdom and the lack of freedoms therein, especially for the Shia minority in Saudi Arabia. They have about 15% of the population. So as far as I'm concerned, the best thing the United States can do, especially the Republicans to help this out, is to get us to go hog wild, 100% all on board for renewable energy. And then what will happen in Saudi Arabia? Well, number one, they've been relying on their oil money forever. They don't have any other industry. And they have a lot of socialism over there because they give their people all that free stuff. And of course, they import a lot of their labor, and they treat their laborers like shit. And of course, they can get away with it because if the laborers don't like it, they'll just chop their heads off. And didn't they just have something recently? Well, first off, they executed more people by beheadings and execution last year than they ever did before. And they started out this year with 47 or 48. And it's pretty obvious that the new king, has some new laws going on down there. And this is how they want to govern their people. And they want to govern their people because they have the power, because they have the oil, because they have the money, because they have the backing of the United States. And now it's time for the United States to get the hell out of there. Okay? Remember, the Saudi Arabia has wanted the United States to fight their fights for them for a long time. They have wanted us to bomb Iran for a long time. They've been behind a lot of the stuff on how bad Iran is, in spite of the fact that Iran, who's definitely not a great actor over there, probably isn't nearly as bad as Saudi Arabia. Now, if we went to 100% renewables, and what's in the ground stays in the ground, the new motto for renewable energy, then Saudi Arabia would have to make a heck of a lot of changes. Number one, because that's their only industry. Number two, because of all the money that they've gotten from it, they put all the wealth at the top, and there will be a lot of rumblings underneath. And number three is that they'll have to find a way to govern responsibly, whereas right now they do not have to govern responsibly at all because they're the head honchos in there. You do what they say, and they'll distribute the money, and they'll make their own environmental laws, and they'll kill off anybody for anything. And oh, by the way, you better be a very strict adherent to Wahhabi, I believe that's how it's called, version of Sunni Islam. Even though it technically didn't start out as that, it became part of Sunni Islam. So, and the whole thing about the budget is that they're running budget deficits right now because the oil prices have been going so low in the last year and a half. And it costs a heck of a lot less for Saudi Arabia to bring the oil out of the ground there as opposed to a lot of other countries. One notable example would be Russia, where it costs a lot more to get the oil from underneath the ground. So Saudi Arabia is still making plenty of money. They're just not making as much as they were. And whereas before they were just throwing money out there all the time, they can't do that anymore. Well, that will cause more rumblings within the kingdom itself. And the other aspect of this is that Saudi Arabia is sort of giving the finger to the United States, saying, "Hey, we don't need your shit anymore." They knew that when they killed that Shia cleric who was lived in Saudi Arabia, they knew that Iran would take strong exception to that. But they did it, and they did it with a heck of a lot of bravado. And I don't think that the United States has really condemned them as vocally as they should. Of course, we know that there were back channels and that there was official policy of the State Department indicating that this is something that would happen. But again, Saudi Arabia decided that they would do what they wanted to do. And I wonder if the United States is willing to back them if there is a war between them and Iran. And of course, one of the things that has affected this is the oil prices, which had started to creep back up a little bit, almost up to $40 a barrel, is now back to about $34 a barrel, $35. It's gone back down the last 3 days because of what Saudi Arabia has done. And because of what Saudi Arabia has done, if Iran gets the go-ahead, to pump oil, they're going to pump oil. And as much as they can. There's already a glut in the market. There'll be a lot more when Iran starts selling it. And any type of an agreement that OPEC or the oil-producing countries could have come together on won't happen as long as this whole thing with Iran and Saudi Arabia come up. But I think the main thing is that I've never been a fan of Saudi Arabia. I've always indicated that they're just as bad as Iran, possibly if not worse. They've played us for suckers all along, and we've fallen in behind them, doing their bidding for them. In the meantime, they've kept control of their kingdom, and as ruthlessly and as brutally as possible, and it's time to stop.